Hey everybody! Today I would like to talk a little bit about the culture of different congregations. You especially notice this when you have moved around a lot between congregations or go to different countries and continents, I think. So we're taught that the quote-unquote truth is the same everywhere. We follow Bible principles, so every single where you go, it should be the same. And I came from Europe as a teenager, and I definitely saw that that is not true. But I even saw that moving around in the United States. I have moved from here to there to the Bible Belt and noticed a huge difference when we had moved to the Bible Belt. And it was also really confusing at the time because you think, why is everybody so strict here? And so here's the story that I'm going to tell about that. When I was a teenager growing up in my congregation, I felt like it was actually a pretty nice congregation and they were really chill. It was in a northern state, pretty easygoing, and it was the Britney Spears era. She got her belly button pierced. I thought that was the coolest thing. I wanted it done too. Our presiding overseer's wife and a ministerial servant's wife went and got their belly buttons pierced together. I was like, cool, because this is the way for me to do it too. And so when I turned 18, I got my belly button pierced. And honestly, in my congregation, nobody cared. It just was like so chill of a hall. So much so that we had a university nearby. So we had a lot of witness brothers who came to the university and studied, and then they would be in our hall, and our hall never said anything to them about studying at college, which is very unusual for Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses have this unwritten rule, and sometimes hinted at in the magazines, that you really shouldn't go to college. But our congregation was so used to having kids from college, they embraced them. And I think because they were so nice to them and embraced them, a lot of times these kids would progress spiritually when they moved into our hall, because we were overall a pretty nice congregation growing up. And so I went to get my belly button pierced too when I was 18, and my mom was kind of like, well, our presiding overseer's wife, she went to did it, and this other sister, what can you do? Nobody cared. Really, nobody cared. We were the kind of hall that if you wanted to wear a bikini and show your belly button ring, maybe some people would roll their eyes or something, but no one really said anything. It just didn't really matter. And I even knew a sister who, she was part of the congregation, and I think people saw her a little bit of a wild child. She got a tattoo of a rose on her back, and I know people were like, well, that's not really ideal, but nobody said anything to her. They just left her alone. And so later on, when I moved to the Bible Belt, everything changed. It was just so strict. And at first, I did not recognize that it had to do with being in the Bible Belt. Someone pointed that out to me later, and I thought, oh, that makes sense, because it was just so hardcore. And the culture of every congregation is very different. It shouldn't be, since we all have the same Bible, but nope, the culture in every hall is very different. And I do think it has a lot to do with the elder body, and in this case, with their wives. We had a sister that we called Sister Elder. It was a foreign language congregation and pretty new, and they really, really needed help, and they needed elders. So they did appoint elders that had only been baptized just recently, and it was hard to watch a little bit because, and I'm not saying it's just newly appointed elders that get high and mighty, because plenty of people who've been in it their whole life and have been elders are high and mighty. But in this particular congregation, it really felt like they just had gotten so proud. And I came because I really wanted to help out. And I thought I loved foreign language. I had been in foreign language in Europe, and we were such a cool congregation. We had so much fun. They just seemed so chill. And so I figured, I can help here. I can auxiliary pioneer. I liked the publishers a lot. But the elders, they were only a few elders, but they really seemed hardcore and arrogant. And especially this one elder's wife, who we would always call Sister Elder, because you could tell she was feeding her husband behind the scenes all the time. So I was in my early 20s. I had just moved there. It was a cool city. I had a lot of fun, lots of young witnesses. We would go out, just a blast. And I made friends with a girl in the congregation, and we will call her Marley. And Marley was pioneering already for a long time, but we were just really getting along, and she seemed like she was, having fun when she would go in service. She didn't seem so strict. So that worked out really well for me. And I had a good friend. And so one night, she was kind of close with the elder and Sister Elder. And I kept my distance from them. I didn't really trust them. I felt like they were kind of out to get us. I didn't feel like they were supporting us. I felt like they were critical of us whenever they could. And in all honesty, I kind of felt like Brother Elder had a little bit of a crush on her, and he would counsel her on too tight clothing constantly. And I felt like it was so inappropriate, because this poor girl, I'm going to be frank, she had big boobs. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can't wear a baggy shirt. We have to wear these semi-formal clothes, and there's really nothing to hide it. And really, I just felt so bad for her, because it was constant. It must make you so self-conscious to be constantly criticized for your clothes. And in all honesty, I would not even say that she would dress sexy at all. She ended up wearing clothes that would be more on the frumpy side, actually, because she was already so self-conscious, and still she would get counseled. And so her and I, we bonded. We would go in service, and then we would go out. We had a lot of fun. One night we met up with some people from the regular English congregation, and we were a bunch of brothers and sisters, bunch of pioneers, and we went to a Mexican restaurant that also had dancing, and it was a blast. We had so much fun. I think we were there till 2 a.m., and it was awesome. We would go home, sleep, and then go in service the next day. We did it. We were young. It was no problem. I didn't feel like I was slacking at all. I was giving my all in every area of my life, basically. And we did look a little tired the next day in service, but we're there. And Sister Elder comes over and starts chatting with Marley and says, "You look tired today." And I'm thinking, don't say anything. And Marley says, "Oh, I didn't even get home till 3 a.m. And Sister Elder says, "Why? Where were you?" And my friend Marley says, "Oh, we went dancing. So not a big deal. Nobody's business. We didn't do anything wrong." The brothers pulled us in the library at the next meeting, and they pulled out an article that they had highlighted, and I know it was the elder's wife who highlighted it. And they said to us, "Read the highlighted text on clubbing and whether we should club it. Go clubbing." And so we read it, and it's serious, and I said, "But you can't just read the highlighted areas, you have to read the whole context." And It's not a sin. We didn't do anything wrong, and they still were so severe with us. They really gave us like a smackdown. They really counseled us and made us feel like shame. And I'm sitting there thinking, so if we really did anything wrong, then you should be contacting all the other elders from the other congregations and turn us all in for wrongdoing. But you're not doing that. You're only, punishing the two of us. You're not getting involved with the English-speaking congregation. So that kind of, clearly we didn't do anything wrong. And you can't just cherry pick and highlight these few paragraphs in an article and, have us read it's out of context, But they were not happy with us. And they're always trying to, hold our privileges over our head. Well, if you act like this, then you can't serve and you really can't go out anymore and dance with these people, and you're probably dirty dancing. And we're looking, I'm like, we were out with brothers and sisters. We were not dirty dancing. And just to assume that someone dirty danced when nothing happened. We were taking dance classes actually at the time with some of those brothers. So we knew the steps. We knew how to do the salsa and all these different things. And my God, it was so messed up. And when I got home, I was just like, this really sucks. I'm trying to do what's right. I am in service. I am auxiliary pioneering. I'm doing all this stuff. And boy, you just keep getting beat down like you're doing something wrong. And we're young and we wanted to have fun. And we didn't do anything wrong. And my grandparents, I lived with my grandparents at the time. They were so mad. They were like, you were with other witnesses. You're young. You had fun. This is not okay. We allowed you live with us, and we allowed you basically as head of house to go out. It's not their business. And my grandma even said, if you want to bring everyone to our house, you can party here, basically. They would never condone wrongdoing. They were strict if you crossed the line. But for us to just hang out and dance, they did not care about that at all. They were so chill. Basically, if it was in the Bible, they cared. But if it was not in the Bible, they felt like it was no one's business. And you better not even say anything because you can't show a scripture for it. And they were right with doing that. And so already you're kind of on the edge. And I was trying to keep my distance from this elder and the sister. And this elder was just going around counseling people all the time. And sometimes I would end up in service. And our hall was very low income, so moms and dads had to work really hard, and I think they were very grateful that people would take their kids in service. So the organization in court, in all these child abuse cases, they claim that Jehovah's Witnesses don't send their children alone with other people, which is so not true. I mean, I saw it my whole life, but I especially saw it in this congregation because people would send their daughter with this particular elder alone in service. And so I ended up in the car group, and he would just criticize these people, these kids constantly. And the whole trip I thought, gosh, he's just criticizing. And really, I'm thinking now that there was a really severe case of physical abuse that he completely mishandled. And I'll make this a part 1 and 2 episode. So I'm going to talk about the abuse in the next episode because this one was kind of about our experience with him personally. And so I just kind of tried to keep my distance from him because he just seemed like how the Bible says, puffed up with pride. That's what he seemed. And it's hard to keep your distance when you're in a small congregation, when you're auxiliary pioneering. And I was really trying to apply to pioneer, and then I was so worried I wouldn't get accepted to pioneer, which is such a joke if you think about it now. You're applying to work for Watchtower for free so that they can make money and recruit people and build kingdom halls. with your free labor. That's really what it is. And here you're afraid you won't get accepted. And I did think, like, this elder has it in for me so much, he may not sign my slip that I applied to be a pioneer. But it ended up I was accepted. And they tell you, you just try it for 1 year. Try it for 1 year. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it for 1 year. Hardest year of my life. Seriously. I was working full time. I was just sick all the time because this was a lot. And since our congregation really didn't have a lot of money, I had no support financially. Nobody slipped you any gas money. I was driving a lot because this was foreign language, so it wasn't really close to me, and there was no support. So I was working full time and pioneering. It's impossible. And one day, I'm now a regular pioneering, and you do notice the culture of the congregation. Like I said, my friend was kind of dressing frumpy. I'm trying to really try to tone it down, and I never wore a bikini because I noticed the culture there was don't wear a bikini. If you go to Europe, it changed now, but back in the day in Europe, people got baptized in bikinis and Speedos. So talk about the culture in different countries and continents. Yeah, if that seems crazy, Europe's so different, and they do not think it's weird when guys wear Speedos. They do not think it's weird when women wear bikinis. But here in this Bible Belt, you noticed you could not do that. So nobody knew that I had a belly button ring because I did not show it off. I did not even show it off. And in a previous episode, I talk about how I had gone to college for a little bit and was, learning a trade at college, actually. And I did get married and had a little bit of issues because I was a teenager living a normal life. And now we consider it as J-dubs as issues. But I was just being a normal kid, basically. But I got a teeny, teeny, tiny tattoo. That was my little rebellious streak. And it's nobody saw it. Just a teeny tiny butterfly. Nobody saw it. Ever. But I did have my belly button ring too. You could tell. I just didn't think it was so horrible. It's basically what I just didn't see it. And part of it is I think my family just was not extreme or hardcore, so my views also weren't hardcore. I was allowed, if there weren't any J-dubs in our congregation or area, I was allowed to hang with worldly people because my family felt well, it's not healthy for a kid not to have friends. But I did take other things very seriously. I didn't have sex in high school, and I didn't want to do wrong. I just didn't think getting a little tattoo was so wrong, basically, if that makes sense. And so one day in this foreign language congregation, I'm a regular pioneer. The elders pull me in the back room, and I have no idea why, but it's always something with this particular elder. And I sit down, and I already am on guard with him because I'm oh, here it goes again. He's always got something. He's always counseling us on something. And he says to me, "It has come to our attention that you have a belly button ring." And I'm young, and I'm sitting there with two dudes in a room talking about my belly button ring that I never showed off. And I do remember having my dad in my head, crossing my arms and thinking, where's my lawyer? I really felt they were the cops. Where's my lawyer? That was my first reaction. And then I thought, first of all, I never show it. They shouldn't even know. I don't even know how they know. And I'm not talking. I'm not even saying anything because this does not concern them. So I'm just sitting there. And they said, just so you know, in our congregation, you can't serve as a regular pioneer and have your belly button pierced. And now I'm sitting there and, you have that whole rhetoric of if you don't talk, if you're not respectful, They have a lot of power over you. And they can pick any little reason. And if they want to, they can disfellowship you. They can find something. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to just like soften my stance here and get out of my head and just try to like be respectful and reason. But I did think it was absolutely ridiculous. And so I explained to them that in my previous congregation, the presiding overseer's wife got her belly button pierced. A ministerial servant's wife got her belly button pierced, that it was no big deal where I lived before, and nobody cared. And they said it does not matter because it matters in our congregation. It's not okay to have that here. And I said, so I know brothers who have like complete arm tattoos, like sleeves. And then later on in life, they became Jehovah's Witnesses, and they even became elders, because my friend's dad, he had like a big arm tattoo, and he was an elder, and he was a wonderful guy. And I said, so they were worldly when they got it, and now they've come to Jehovah and have become elders. How is that any different? And the brother said to me, he would never be allowed to serve in our congregation. And I said, but that doesn't even make any sense, because he wasn't even a Jehovah's Witness when he got his tattoo. You know, he came to Jehovah, but he couldn't really get rid of his whole arm tattoo. And the brother said, not in our congregation. And you with your belly button ring remind us of a stripper, which just floored me. I mean, I'm young at this point. I'm like maybe 21, 22. I'm in a room with these two older guys who, one of them I find like so creepy. The other one was really, really nice, but he just was quiet during this. And they tell me, a young woman, that I remind them of a stripper as I'm sitting there as a regular pioneer dressed really modestly. I mean, my jaw was on the floor, and the misogyny of this is so crazy. And I'm thinking, have you seen a stripper? Like, do you know what a stripper looks like? And I just think, unbelievable. And they basically said to me, you cannot pioneer in our congregation with a belly button ring. And I'm like, it's not like I have my eyebrow pierced and I'm at the door preaching to people with my eyebrow ring. Nobody sees this. This is so ridiculous. And I thought, you know what? This is the point where I need to bow out. And I had back-to-back issues, because it was like at the end of my year of pioneering in that congregation, I really felt I had 13 Bible studies, and I loved the publishers and preaching, but this guy just made your life miserable. And doesn't it feel like there's like always one in every hall? It's like you can have a nice hall, but one will always kind of sour it. But the last straw for me was, it was time to go to Pioneer School, and I was invited to go, and they put me in the foreign language Pioneer School, which would have been fine. I spoke the language pretty decently, but I said to the one American elder that we had, who was also mistreated in this hall, like he was a nice guy, I felt bad for him, but I said to him, hey, do you think I could go to Pioneer School in English? And like, I have to say this too, like, English isn't my mother language. This is my second language, but I still speak it better than the language that the foreign language congregation was in. And I said to him, because I feel like Pioneer School is for me to learn. So in English, I can really, really learn so much better than if I go in this other language, which it'll be okay, but, you know, it's for me to learn, and I can take it back into the territory, and then I can teach people, but I just feel like I'll do better in English. And he said, no problem. So he arranged for me to go to the English Pioneer School. And it was no problem. And there was another American couple in the English Pioneer School from the same foreign language circuit. So they also went with me. So I wasn't like the only one from a foreign language congregation in the English Pioneer School. So I went the first week of Pioneer School because it was 2 weeks at the time. And the one elder, this is a third elder, he comes up to me Saturday because I did go in service, and he goes, because he was at the foreign language Pioneer School, and he's like, where have you been all week? And I said, well, I actually, the other elder helped me to go to Pioneer School in English, and I didn't know that they didn't know that. Like, I didn't know, I just showed up, and he's like, no. You should have gone to the Pioneer School in foreign language. And I said, well, there's other people from the foreign language circuit in the English Pioneer School. I just feel like it's there to help me, to teach me, so I can be a better, preacher. And he's like, you know what? If you can't go to Pioneer School in the foreign language, then I feel you don't even need to show up here anymore. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. I finished Pioneer School. I turned in my letter. I could not even do this anymore physically. It was exhausting to me. I did not feel like the congregation really had my back and helped me out or were thankful. I did not feel like supported. I really just felt like beaten down constantly. And I was so tired. You're giving your all, and then you're called a stripper. And by the way, I even said to the brothers in that meeting about the belly button ring, I said, okay, well, how about I take the belly button that no one ever sees? How about I take the belly button ring out? And they said, no. You still would have the piercing, and you will always have the piercing. So you can take it out. You just can't be a pioneer here anymore. And this was all happening at the same time. And I'm like, I do think the elder, his little elder's wife, I think she wanted my friend and I to be gone because she just, I don't know. I do think her husband had a crush on my friend. He was just so inappropriate with her. Anyways, and so I'm like, I am going to gracefully bow out here because I don't even feel appreciated. And I'm tired. All this, it was just drama that was so unnecessary to me. I'm like, you're putting in all these hours pioneering. You have a lot of Bible studies, and then you're going to get called a stripper and get yelled at all the time. I'm like, I'm just done. I felt like, also because we were a small congregation, everyone was just incredibly in your business all the time. And so I'm like, I'm going back. And again, this whole thing should have been an experience that probably did add to me eventually waking up, because it's a drop in the bucket that overflows, I say, and your bucket just has to be filled. But looking back, I'm like, how did I not wake up then? They were just so cruel. Where's the love? This is the religion that proclaims that the sign that you can recognize this religion is love. What a joke. To call a young woman a stripper when she's just trying to pioneer. It's just, there's no love there. There's no love. So that was my experience with that, and seeing the culture in different congregation. And really, when I told my friends up north with this whole belly button thing, they were so confused because some of them were pioneering with belly button rings. They were like, this is so weird. And my one friend up north, she emailed me back when I had told her in an email. I still have the email. And she wrote in huge letters, call Bethel. So in her mind, she really thought, oh, you should be able to call basically our customer service center, Bethel, and they should help you. And if it was really the truth, that's probably how it should be, that you get someone really nice on the phone and they really try to help you out and be there for you and solve your problems. And deep down inside, already at that point, I knew you can't really call Bethel. They don't have a phone number listed anywhere. Maybe if I was going to get a phone number, I would have to go to the elders and ask them. Well, the elders aren't really like being the nicest right here. So I already thought this is a weird thing. And this is so culty too. You work your butt off for the cult. It's never enough. You don't get a thanks. And you feel unappreciated. And I think to me, at first, my grandpa had come with me in foreign language, and my grandma was there, and my mom. And it was better because I had like a family, but they couldn't really do it. It was really hard. And so they went back to English. So I was by myself. And as soon as I was by myself, I felt like the elders viewed me as they need to now step in and be like the man and be the head over me or something. That's when I really noticed that it got like really bad. Well, I wasn't even doing anything. Like, why do they feel like they need to step in for a grown woman? And I have heard a lot of sisters having the same problems. And even in English, just single sisters having like elders act or other brothers act like they need a head over them. Please share your stories. I'm sure there's so many of these. So I was leaving the elders meeting about my belly button, a grown adult having to meet with some dudes who's have no business to even know whether or not I have a belly button. And it's just unbelievable. Like, if you told a person that's not a Jehovah's Witness this story, like, they would just be so floored. Like, they would not even be able to believe that we give these people power. They have no power. They had zero power to pull me in the library. They're not the police. And yet we're so brainwashed to think that they really do have this power over us. And so as I left that elders meeting, it was kind of funny because I chuckled just a teeny tiny bit thinking, wow, but they don't even know that I have a little tattoo. So I'll make this a part B. And tomorrow I will continue talking about this elder and the abuse that was going on. And that's just really a really sad story as well. So we'll talk to you tomorrow.